Hi,
Mm.
welcome to Caffeinated Terrier Talk with currently me and Laurie from Caffeinated Terrier Press. And we are here today to talk about all sorts of things. We're supposed to be joined by another one of our members, Tal Good, and we were going to be talking about utilizing mythology in our writing. And she's not here yet, so we're going to talk about something else until then.
Yep.
So what were we talking about? We were talking about scams,
Scams.
and then but we were
All
we were talking about cover art and
Mhm.
also yeah. So making making money as an independent artist.
Yeah.
The funniest thing, and I'm going to repeat the thing that I said before I mentioned the name of this quasi show, is that the best way for independent authors to make money is to make it from other independent authors. And
Oh, no.
it's just goes to show that as a concept, like it means that there are needs and there's a niche and there's a reason that people are able to do this. But I think the problem is the landscape of publishing in general is exploitative, but the landscape of independent publishing is horrifically exploitative in that there is always someone around the corner trying to make a dollar off of you.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Lori, do you want to
Indeed.
kind of repeat your statement about how many scam messages you get a day, a week?
I don't I don't think I get as many as you because you said that I was going to get an email every day, and I haven't. I've only gotten a handful of emails, but I get a lot of emails from people that are claiming to be oh, what do they call themselves? They're like first they claim they read my book, which they did not, because I would have noticed because I make money when people read my books. And I have only made, as I said before, $30, which I do not have in hand yet. Um, but first they say they read my book and they're amazed by everything that's laid out in the blurb. Oh, wow. So you read my blurb. Um,
No, they didn't.
and
They
then,
actually didn't even do that, but keep going.
yeah. And then, and one of them, I was like, it was before the book was published. So I actually replied back and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. How did you read my book? Because it's not out yet and I need to know how you got access to it. And then she was like, okay, so I have to admit, I didn't actually read your book, but I saw the information about it. And so they're all the emails are from people saying, what I do is I extend people's broader reach and I'm a visibility expert, I think is what they say they are. And I make sure books are more visible in the
Hmm.
market. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like bullshit. And then I just delete their emails. There's only the one person that I actually talked to. And that was the one where I replied and said, how the hell did you get my book? It's not out yet. And then she admitted she hadn't gotten it. All of the other ones I just delete because it's such obvious bullshit. But then, yeah, there's the DMs. I've actually stopped getting DMs on TikTok, partly because I put in my bio that I block creeps and don't DM me, and partly because I filtered a whole lot of words, mostly creepy things. Like it was mostly just men offering to be a sugar daddy and offering, like, if I gave you $5,000 no strings attached. Would that be nice? And I'd be like, no, that'd be really creepy. And I don't reply to them and I block them. But I've filtered all those words out now, and it's really gross looking at the words that I've filtered out, and it's horrifying being a woman on the internet. But I also got a lot of DMs from people offering cinematic trailers and um, portraits of my characters and stuff like that. And then one DM over Instagram from someone today or 2 days ago that I didn't notice till today saying, "What if I reimagined your book cover?" Which, no, I don't need that. So it's all of that. Everybody is just out there like, if I just individually message every author out there, maybe I'll make money that way. And I'm like, no, that's not how marketing works. So obviously this is a scam.
Yeah.
The
Quick
fuck?
quick note on that while we're so I invited Tal to join us. So oh, here we go. How's this looking? Do we have a Tal?
Do we? Oh,
Hey,
hey.
Tal,
I
can
don't know if
you?
this is working. I'm doing.
We can hear you. You just got to turn your camera
You
on
can
if
hear
you're
me.
gonna turn your camera on, though.
I don't know. Okay, yeah, there we go. I'm sorry, I'm being old right now.
That's okay.
Oh, there we go. I think we got
Hey,
it.
there
Hey.
you go.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, I actually was trying with my laptop and it kept saying that I had to download the app and I did and then it still did not work. So, oh well. I'm on this little tiny microphone.
Well, that's okay. It actually sounds quite good. So welcome to the show. Welcome to the podcast. This is, of course, once again, for anyone who's just joining us, this is Caffeinated Terrier Talk. And thank you to all of the folks who are joining us. I do see a bunch of hearts, and I'm going to quote a good friend of mine, Tanya, and just remember that tapping is clapping. So just tap right on my face and give us all the hearts. But I'm going to do a quick round robin to let everyone introduce themselves, and then we're actually going to get on to the topic for the evening as we vamped for time talking about the latest in indie author exploitation scams. But yeah, Tal, why don't you tell the folks at home who you are and what you got going on?
Hi, I'm Tal Good. I am the author of the Secret Wing series, which is a middle grade urban fantasy. There are 4 books in the series, and it's pretty fun. And then I also have an urban fantasy book called Fairy Blood. And then I currently am working on a really fun fantasy for adults about a middle aged librarian and her magical cats that sort her library books for her.
I do love that. I'm
Cool.
I'm looking forward to more about that one. Thank
Hmm.
you for joining us, Lori. Why don't you go next?
Hi. I'm Laurie Nielsen. I'm the author of the Liminal Spaces series. There's only one book out so far about Alice, who's 33 years old, when she learns that she's descended from fairies and she's a banshee, and she has all sorts of death related powers that so far she just knows. She can sometimes tell when someone's going to die and talk to the dead in her dreams, and goes on wacky adventures with a rabbit Puka. And the books are based on various portal related fantasy genres and fairy stuff.
Great. And I am, as always, urban fantasy author Ben Shankman, author of the Devil You Know series, now also the Chronicles of Corbin Pierce, which just released in October with Let Sleeping Gods Lie, among with some other things, including the anthology, the mini micro anthology that we just put out with Caffeinated Terrier Press. That includes short stories from the three of us, as well as our good friend David Nemitz. So it's called A Season for Stories. And the theme is that some stories can only be told in certain seasons, and these are all winter themed stories. Cover art is by a fantastic artist, Sarah Murphy, who happens to also be married to David Nemitz. See how I did that? Not wife of, but incredibly talented person that happens to be legally attached to this other guy.
She's awesome. I've
Yeah.
known her for over 20 years. She's an amazing artist. And I have a painting of hers in my living room. I'm
So
so happy I have it.
so today we were going to be talking about mythology because all of our books include the use of mythology and folklore. So I think as an interesting topic, we wanted to discuss what that looks like for each of us, kind of how we utilize that. I think I'm also interested in talking about, let's talk about accuracy in the how important is it to you that the folklore be represented in a specific way, or do you turn it on its head? Let's start out with I'm going to make up a question, and then hopefully each of you can make up some questions as well. But let's start out, and I'm going to toss this over to Laurie first. But why mythology? Why use that as the basis for your stories?
I think it's always been just this very human thing to try to explain why certain things happen. And, I just love the way that some stories endure. And we just, we see fantastic things, and some people ignore them and some people go towards them. And I've just always been fascinated by that. Like when I'm in the grocery store and a little kid is like staring at me, and I just kind of wonder, like, do they see something about me that I don't even see? And that idea of like there is magic in the world that only some people can see and that most people ignore. And I've always just been drawn to those stories. And I'd, you know, growing up with, my grandmother was her parents were from Norway, so I've always been interested in like the Norse mythology stories and wanting to learn more about those. And then like watching Labyrinth as a kid, and that inspired my second book, which I'm writing right now. And just the idea of like there's these really, really old stories, but then there's always new ways to tell them. And there's always new spins on like these creatures that have been around for so long. And yeah, and like yeah, there's always been like the little folk and the fae folk and the goblins, but then there's this brand new story from like the early 80s or late 70s, I don't remember exactly when, and it tells it in a whole new way. And I'm like, I want to do that too. I want to take these old stories and these new stories and then make it my story. I don't know if that answered the question, because I'm just going to enter a fugue state when I answer questions. But
I'm too busy getting distracted by the power of the babe.
It did. Ignore the fact that
power
that
voodoo. Who do you do what?
Power of the babe.
Yeah.
Is this going to turn into karaoke? I mean, I've got the microphone for it.
I don't.
I've got a great microphone for it.
I have one. I don't know how to hook it up to anything else. I can't hook it up to my phone.
You and me, we're going to talk about that. Yes, you can.
I don't have the right cord to hook it up to my phone.
You just need a different cord.
Yeah. I had one for my computer. I thought that would work, but nope.
Okay. Tal, same question to you. Why mythology? And while you're answering, Laurie, you get to think of the next question.
Well, that's the mythology is where we come from. I mean, we sit around writing stories. We come from people sitting around telling stories and writing stories and taking from everybody else and changing it and making their own stories. I mean, that's the history of writers. So of course we're going to be taking from these old folklores and these old tales that people used to tell and write and making it our own.
Yeah. True.
That was a little too short, but yeah, that's brief. It.
Don't worry, I can fill the rest of the time, by which I mean I could just talk for 40 minutes and no one could stop me. So I've worked on this, maybe even unintentionally, but I'm working on this niche for myself, which is it's pushing urban fantasy closer to magical realism. And partly it's what you said, which is why I like what you said, and I'm going to riff on that for how it's affecting my own stuff, because I feel like magical realism, you have to ground the magic in something in the real world. Mm-hmm. And what I do for my books is it usually focuses on either religion or mythology and folklore. Religion being a certain kind of mythology, to be perfectly frank, because if you don't believe it, then it's mythology. If you believe it, then it's your religion. Yeah. But that's kind of how
the Jewish atheism coming out.
Is it me? Am I the Jewish atheist, or are you the Jewish atheist?
A little bit of both.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely Jewish. so yeah, I write The Devil You Know using religion as the backdrop that I purposefully use relatively accurately, yet entirely unseriously. But it changes when I get into other kinds of folklore. You know, when I started working with indigenous folklore more, it's really important to me that it feels more real and more accurate and more representative, because it's something that I'm not trying to lampoon in any way.
Mm.
But nonetheless, what to not dive too far away from my own question, which was why, it was why mythology is why, because I think it really does connect us to something real in the world. So when we make that part of the magic and part of the experience, we're connecting it kind of in this primal way to this stuff that existed before us that people believed in. So, you know, it's an anchor in some ways that I think a lot of like high magic isn't. It's not anchored in something.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm amused at the comments. Who's Wes?
Yeah,
How do you
Wes
know
is
him?
cracking
How do you
me
know
up.
Wes?
Wes Cameron, my friend and fellow urban fantasy author. Wes, so Wes is going to get a plug. Wes is releasing a book soon, Wes. I think it's Unbalanced and Unprepared. It's an urban fantasy series that takes place in Orlando. So, urban fantasy usually takes place
June 2nd.
in a city
Oh.
specifically, and we all
Mhm.
like making our characters have that city as their backdrop. You know, Harry Dresden's got Chicago. Nick in my series, who has no last name and no one's ever called me on it.
It's true.
I didn't even think of it. Oh my god.
I have asked you, does he have a last name in person?
I don't
have
think
said
I answered. I don't think
no.
I
You
answered.
didn't. You said. I think you said. I never thought of one.
I literally never even put any thought into it when I was not at all.
He has no last name.
But yeah, Corbin Pierce has New Haven, and Wes, remind me the name of your unhinged urban fantasy MC is it Orlando or Tampa? I think it's Orlando. Gonna wait in the Damian Wolfman.
Oh, that's a good name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, like an Orlando. So
Orlando.
Damian Wolfman's got Orlando, and I'm gonna be an early reader for Wes on this. We were just waiting for the book to get through edits, but yeah. So how do I know Wes? Because Wes is a fellow urban fantasy author working on some fun unhinged kind of stuff, and we just kind of hit it off. So good to see Wes in the comments, and yeah, he's definitely chatting it up there.
I've known a couple.
My book series all takes place in the Bridgewater Triangle of Massachusetts, which is supposed to be the spooky place in Mass where all the cryptids are and all the weird sightings are.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Oh,
Home of
where all the
closed
crime
down
is in
factory. There, no, actually, all the crimes in East Hartford, but
Oh yeah, that's
or
true.
in Waterbury. But yeah, the home of
Okay, I grew up right next to water.
Then you
The
know.
dirty water.
Then you know. But yeah, no,
I
I've
do know.
known
No, but I was scared. I was scared of walking around in Bridgeport. I gotta say.
There are
and I
parts
worked
of
I worked in Hartford.
It depends.
Yeah,
on where
no,
you
there are
are.
parts of Bridgeport that are scary. Mine specifically takes place in the part that everybody thinks is Fairfield in
Okay.
Black Rock, the nice part. But no, I've known a couple of people who lived in the Shadow of the Mouse down in Orlando, and that they call it that, the Shadow of the Mouse, or at least they did 25 years ago. So yeah, no,
I've
that
never heard
sounds
that.
cool,
That's
and I
cool.
kind of want to read that.
So Wes is writing book 3 right now. So if he hasn't already, do expect to see Shadow of the Mouse somewhere in book 3. I would expect.
It should be in there because that's what the people I
Gotta
knew
be.
called it.
The
the
Mousetrap.
Mousetrap.
Yeah, that's pretty
Ah.
good too.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah,
That was a terrible game.
I
My
loved
never
that
worked.
game.
Oh my god, it never worked. The stupid cage
It
would
did.
fall down while you were playing. Every 5 seconds, you're like, okay.
It's an
Yeah, it did fall
engineering
apart a lot.
nightmare.
Yeah.
I
The
love a
setup was
Rube
like,
Goldberg machine.
but it was like 40 minutes of setup. You play for like 2 seconds and the thing doesn't work.
I don't care. I love a Rube Goldberg machine.
Oh, we're
Anyway,
gonna
where were
reel
we?
ourselves back in, and
Okay.
so Lori, I had tasked you with
Oh,
coming
God.
up with the second question for the panel. What do you got for
Okay.
us?
Entirely self-serving because I already know my answer to it. But which mythological creature do you most identify with, and how does that make its way into your writing?
Oh man,
Oh, I've
Oh my
stunned him.
goodness.
no, it's a good question. Who do you want to answer first? It's you get to pick. You ask the question.
Tal.
Oh, okay. Oh
You look
gosh.
slightly
I
less
don't know.
stunned than Ben did.
Well, okay. So for the books I'm writing right now, it's pretty easy because there's a talking cat, and
Mhm.
he's a cat Sith, and I definitely see myself as a very grumpy cat that just wants to, nap in the sun and say snarky things to people, and that's basically what he does. But he can also change his size and get bigger and smaller, and he could eat people if he felt like it. So that's
Nice.
good way to describe, I'd say, myself. I do have a lot of creatures in the books. It's sort of a lot of different mythologies, and they're from all over the place. I have things from Japan, things from Ireland, things from just all different. It's like a huge mashup. But I did focus mostly on the Massachusetts cryptids because got to be local.
We all want to be a cat. I envy mine all the time. I would
Yeah.
not have fallen straight on my face earlier today if I were a cat. They land on their feet and not their chin.
Sometimes I've had cats that do not.
Yeah, okay,
I
fair.
have 4 cats. I have 4
Oh,
cats, and one
nice.
of them is a bit on the derpy side.
Is it orange? Because that's orange cats are the
No,
derpiest cats.
he's a gray cat, and he's very heavy.
Oh,
Yeah, once they hit a certain critical mass, they lose some of that innate
little
agility.
bit, yeah.
Yeah. So the question was, which mythological or folkloric character do I like identify with the most, and how does it?
Yes.
That's in your books.
And how does it get? No, it doesn't have to be. But
Oh,
how does
doesn't?
it? How does it affect your writing? Like, how does it get into what you write?
So maybe I'm gonna be a little bit. I have to be a little general at first because one of the biggest things that is in a lot of different folklore is the anthropomorphic nature of animal spirits as humanoid. So alternately, you've got archetypal animals. You've got crow, you've got bear, you've got raccoon, you've got raven, and in some stories they're talked about as the animals themselves, and that's fine. But then in a lot of more popular fiction, they're then anthropomorphized and turned into the shape-shifting humanoid version of whatever it is that they were. One of my favorite urban fantasy authors that I take a lot of inspiration from for my latest series is Charles DeLint, and Charles DeLint wrote a series called it's the Newford series, and it takes place in a fictional Canadian city somewhere near Toronto, and he does that like crow is in or ravens in the book, jackdaw, and they're like the human versions of themselves, but they can turn back into the animal. So like there's a lot of and I say shifting in the literal sense, not in the paranormal romance sense. In folklore, you've got so Lori, you're giving me the face.
I haven't read any paranormal romance.
It's a
The closest I've gotten is
shifters.
the Sookie Stackhouse.
Yeah, just shifter romance is like a whole thing. So I'm just saying I'm not talking
Okay.
about shifters. I'm talking about shape shifting
Shape-shifting, yeah.
spiritual animals.
Okay. Not like
so-
were
Yeah,
beasts.
exactly. They're not
Okay.
were crows. It's crow.
Right.
Like it's crow in capital letters. Crow.
Yeah.
So I don't know that there's one in particular that I identify with the most. I'm bringing crows as a concept like into the second book, which I'm really enjoying because crows are smart as hell and they're fun.
And
And
you've got one tattooed on you.
that's a raven. I have a raven
Yeah, that's a
tattooed on
raven,
me. Yeah,
right?
yeah. But I do love
Oh, I'm
ravens.
so
I just
sorry.
haven't. I mentioned raven.
Just a Corvid
Actually,
fan in general.
it's
Yes.
Corbies, Corvids. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, let's just say my favorite are Corvids, and I've only just now been starting to incorporate them into the second book in the Corbin Pierce books.
I have a Tengu in mine, the Japanese
Oh, neat.
Hmm.
the Tengus.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Can I just say I love the name Papa's Right Hand Ghoul?
That's
Like,
that's
amazing.
that's Cat. That's my partner, Cat.
Yeah,
That's
Cat.
Cat.
Yeah.
Hi,
Hi,
Cat. I love
Cat.
your name.
Also, yeah, they in quotes the yes. Sorry, Cat is like, oh yeah, taken by my panther shifted fated mate. Blah blah blah. Like yeah, those are what I'm
I
talking
can't.
about.
Oh,
Look,
yeah.
it's I'm not
Well,
gonna.
I'm asexual, but I don't read.
Yeah, I'm not
I
gonna
don't read
yuck.
romance.
I'm
I'm
not
sorry.
gonna yuck people's yums.
No.
Lots of people love it. It is
Mhm.
not my cup of tea.
Nope. I
I've never
skipped through.
read one.
I skipped entire pages, like just skip when I was reading the Sookie Stackhouse books. I was like, oh no, sex. And I would just skip. Like, I'm not a total prude, but I am a little like, eh. So I just like, let me get back to the plot. Yeah, I read those books for the plot. But yeah,
So
So
your answer, Lori, to your
my
own
answer,
question.
my entirely self-serving question, Banshee. That's the hair. I've had the Vanity Plate Banshee for I don't know how long, possibly as long as not quite as long as Ben has known me, but ages at this point. I got the Vanity Plate Banshee because it's super easy to get a Vanity Plate in Connecticut. But yeah, like so much of my book is autobiographical. I have had dreams about people who've died before I knew they were dead. The very first scene in my first book is almost entirely ripped from an actual dream that I actually had about the real life Sarah that I write about in my book. I have had premonitions about people dying and then they died, and it was super creepy. And like just the red hair and the screaming. Um, and usually my hair is a lot bigger. I iron it to get it this thin. But yeah, no, it's I'm actually Scottish DNA wise, apparently a little bit Irish, but isn't everyone when you do those DNA tests? Apparently, oh wow, because almost everybody ends up with some Irish DNA. There was an Irish comedian that talks about like Irish people were just like got into everyone's DNA, and almost everybody who takes a DNA test ends up having like at least 5% Irish in there.
You get Vikings too, man. Like my
Oh, yeah.
Irish and English side has Norwegian in it, and it's not supposed to. We're just like,
Oh. I knew the
Vikings.
Norwegian would be there because, as I think I mentioned before you were here, I don't remember, but my grandmother's parents immigrated from Norway, so I knew there'd be that. But yeah, and that's actually where red hair comes from. But
That's my husband's
yeah.
half Norwegian, and my son
Oh,
has a
nice.
Norwegian name. My son's name is Severin Loki.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Yeah, every time I meet someone who has a pet named Loki, I'm like, oh, you are playing with fire.
You get what you get.
It's his middle name because I
Why?
wanted to yell it at him. I wanted to yell it at him when I was mad.
His full government name when he's in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Lori, no, I am 99. I was 99.7% Ashkenazi Jew, and
Oh wow. Okay.
and then when they updated their numbers, I was then 99.9%.
Well, I mean that
Wow.
just means you're European.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's a specific area of Europe, but yeah, no Irish. I in fact somehow
Yeah.
managed to not.
Amazing. But yeah, that's one of the things that got me into reading about all this folklore was just like I started hearing myths, poked around a little bit in myths about Banshee, and I will never say banshees because she is the Irish word for fae, and the
Yeah.
plural of she is she. So if the plural of she is she, then the plural of banshee is she, and that is a hill I'm not going to die on it, but somebody is. But like the plural of banshee is banshee. um, but yeah, I started reading about
And that is
that,
the
and the more
she
I
mound
read,
that I'm gonna die on.
that is the she mound someone's gonna die on. But yeah, like I started
Sorry.
reading about it, and it was just all of it was so fascinating. I was like, I gotta just keep reading about this. And the more I read about it, the more I was like, there's stories here.
It's like
There's so
someone is gonna
much.
think we're talking about like fairy romance with she mounds. Oh, sorry, not sorry.
And
Um,
yeah, I made my main character asexual too, because no.
well, we should have a whole separate show about representation, especially
Mm,
like I mean, it's
we could.
we are currently we're a group of white authors, and nonetheless, it is still hugely important to have representation in our books for various things. So not I'm not going to get on that soapbox now, but we should have a separate episode about that.
We can.
Yeah.
So mythology.
Yeah.
What should
So
we talk about
I was
next?
just going to say it's Tal's turn to ask a question.
So it was really funny when you started talking about what you were talking about, because what I was gonna ask was, what is there something in your book that you is like a thing that happened to you in your real life that you put into your book, and then you added like the folklore or the mythology in, and you already mentioned something, but you might have another one that you could share.
So do you want to phone a
She's
friend while you
thinking.
think about it? I can
It's
take
Ben's
this one
turn.
while
Ben
you're.
can
Yeah, Ben
Ben
can
gets to
go and I
respond
can
first.
think.
Okay, so things that happen in my book that really happened. I put a lot of my food experiences into my books. If you're talking, are we talking about mythology? I mean, it's cultural. A lot of the food that I put in my books is actually specifically highlighting foods from other cultures, which is also what I'm doing with a lot of the folklore. Uh, a crippling caffeine addiction, is that also like that's also in my books from real life? As far as the folklore stuff, I mean, you know what? I can't say that I'm skipping like the main story. So no shit, there I was in New Haven, Connecticut, walking back to my car from a concert at Toad's Place, and
Yeah, toads.
so I'm there with some friends, and we're walking along on the sidewalk, and it's near one of the Yale halls, and we look over into like this grassy area between the sidewalk and the building, and there's the shining eyes of the fattest raccoon that I have ever seen in my life. And so I've told this story before on other shows, and I don't care, I'm going to tell it again. So he looks at me, and I look at him, and we freeze on the sidewalk, and he's staring at us, and we're staring at him. I'm like, oh man, this guy is great. And then there's this like crack in the in between like the building, and though I've gone back during the daytime, and I don't know if it was actually a crack that went all the way through, or just like just like something that went like a divot. But the raccoon, without breaking eye contact, reaches behind himself, pulls himself while staring at us into the crack between the buildings until he disappears, as if whispering, "No one will believe you." And he's and Wes, it's not that he put on a show. He's terrified because no matter that he's like a fat raccoon, there's like 4 humans just standing there staring at him. So we're the predators, and so
He's like, maybe if I move slowly, they won't
he's like,
see me.
if I just keep eye contact, when they charge me, I'll know. And yeah, so that was the inspiration for Scratch, the half spirit raccoon that is a secondary main character in Let Sleeping Gods Lie. Which, side note, I gotta plug this for 1 second. I have a number of books that have been nominated in the Indie Ink Awards.
Mm,
So for anyone who is interested and would love to support it, please go to the Indie Ink Awards or go to Indie Ink and vote for all my books, which I have most in like some category. But if Let Sleeping Gods Lie does not win for side character MVP for
yeah.
Scratch the raccoon, I feel like that's a crime.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyone who's listening, please go to Indie Inc. and vote at least for Let Sleeping Gods Lie for side character MVP, if not more, because like I've got plenty of stuff in there. So yeah, that's my story for a real life thing that happened that ended up in one of my books. Is I had an experience with all caps raccoon.
And the raccoon inspired your whole book there.
I held on to that
Mm.
story for like 20 years.
Wow.
And yeah, because that was Laurie, that's when like I think it was a concert at Toads with Laura and company. So like
Oh, okay.
it's been
Wow.
a hot
A long
minute.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was I held on to that, and that had to be there somewhere. And
That was
just
so good.
before we move on to Lori having another story about that, we have another few people that joined. So good to see author Neil Christensen and also Lyndon, voiceover actor, who is actually narrating mine and Poppy's progression fantasy underleveled. So he has joined us. So good to see you folks. But yeah,
Cool.
Lori, your turn to answer
I
Tal's question.
can't I can't follow that. Who wants to follow that? I can't think
The
of
story
any.
just has to start with "No shit, there I was." Whatever story comes
No shit,
after
there I
that.
was, yeah.
I have no shit there I was stories. I mean, I definitely like for the liminal spaces idea, I definitely pull from like the idea of like of specific places I've been to. Like the rest stop on the highway at like late at night when there is nobody else there and only one restaurant is open and there is like literally just one person asleep at a table and you walk in and all you hear is like the music playing distorted over the speakers and it's just like it's so creepy and it feels like you're gonna turn a corner and there's just going to be a portal to another world because that is what it's like in there. And there's a scene where they go to Beardsley Zoo in Bridgeport, and it's the middle of the day, but it's like an overcast day. And if my camera's shaking, it's because there's a cat. Hi, um, shaking the entire
Yay.
desk that it's on. Um, and like an overcast day, and there's hardly anybody there. And there's the carousel. There's this giant carousel building in Beardsley Zoo that's really cool. But when it's not running and there's no one in the building, even in the middle of the day, it feels like a liminal space. So it's like that kind of feeling. And I also definitely used the fact that all I eat is sugar and carbs. Like I have told people I'm a carbivore. There's a bunch of vegetables I'm allergic to, so I have a really good like excuse for that. I'm allergic to like half the vegetables that exist, so I have a terrible diet. And at one point, Alice gets really sick, and the thing that makes her feel better is eating sugar. And I decided to just make that part of my mythology that fairies eat lots of sugar, and the people who are descended from the Fae, like that's basically medicine for them. Because there have been times when I've been sick, all I could eat was sugar. I call it the hummingbird diet. And that's how I make myself feel better. I had a medication I was on, and it was doing really bad things to me. And I stopped taking it very suddenly because I'm an idiot. And all I could eat for like 3 days was I could have water and soda and Snickers bars, and that was my entire diet for like 3 days. And I was okay, but I couldn't handle any other food. So I was just like, this is what fairies are like. That's what I'm going to base my fairy diet on. Like, this is medicine if you're a fairy.
I want
It
to hold
totally
on
made sense
to
though. Like in the book, that made sense to me.
Okay, great.
I want to hold on to that idea though. So Tal needs to answer her own question. However,
Mhm.
I want to hold on to that because so I just finished reading By a Silver Thread by Rachel Aaron, and there's a changeling in there, and part of her magic system or mythology system, her fairies are also very sweet tooth sugarholics. So it feels like that's not an uncommon thing, and I wonder if that's more based in traditional folklore than you think.
It might be. I mean, people used to leave out like a bowl of milk for
Milk
the
with honey.
fairies, milk
With
and
honey,
honey.
yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
honey is basically just sugar. It's the more natural, one of the first natural places where people got sugar before they learned how to like do whatever it is we do to sugar cane. So that was one of the first, kinds of sugar that people were introduced to on, just on their own as a naturally occurring substance. So, yeah, it probably is part of mythology that fairies like sugar. So it's got to just be part of like the zeitgeist or whatever that like fairies like sugar. So maybe I am part fae. Maybe that's real. Maybe I'm not even making up these stories. Maybe I'm just writing the truth.
That's what it is. That's it.
All right, Tal, what happened? What is your experience that ended up in your books?
I always have something in my books that actually happened to me. But then I change it and add sort of magical elements to it. The one that came to mind is kind of funny. So I don't know if either of you know this, but I used to work as an EMT and I was working on an ambulance. And there were a lot of crazy things. I could write like a million books of all the crazy things that happened while I was working on the ambulance. But this we did a lot of lift assists where you help people stand up, like elderly people, and we also got when people had the help button, it would just automatically call us. So we were getting a call from the help button, no response when we were calling the house and everything like that. And we were normally what happens when there's a situation is the police or firefighters actually clear the scene before you go in as an EMT, because if the EMTs get injured, who's going to help them? So we actually got to the scene first. And it was, an elderly person, so we weren't really super concerned. We've kind of been to the area a bunch of times. We knocked on the door, it was open, and we open the door and it's sort of a little dark in there. And my partner turns the light on. And the first thing we see is an entire room full of heads. We both are like, oh my God. And and the alarm is like sounding really loudly in the place. And once like our eyes adjust and we see what's going on, it's a bunch of mannequin heads with wigs. And the whole entire front room is filled with mannequin heads. And it took us a long time to find the lady, and she was totally fine, but she was deaf. And she had one of those buttons, and it was just in a drawer somewhere, and the battery had died, and it was just going off, and it was really loud, but she didn't hear it.
Mm.
And we were like, what's with all the heads? And she's like, oh, I used to be a hairdresser, and I used to do like, practice on all these heads and with all these like wigs on them. So I had to have a spooky scene where the kids go into a house and there's all these, mannequin heads all around, and they know that the person's a hairdresser, but then in the scene, these sort of ghost-like creatures start appearing throughout the
Oh,
house. Yeah.
it just reminds me of I don't know if you've seen what I call the good Ghostbusters with the women,
Oh,
where
yeah.
she goes in and it's the room full of mannequins, and she's just like, nope, room full of nightmares, and just like goes
Yeah.
right back
Yep.
out again. It's just
All
like, nope,
done.
nope, I'm not going in there.
I
Oh,
just thought it
that's
was a perfect
horrifying.
scene for something weird to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Well,
yeah.
with your it's I know it's penchant, but like a penchant, like with your like penchant for cryptid stuff, like a room full of mannequin heads seems perfectly appropriate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh, that's horrifying. Oh.
So we only got a little bit of time left, but I still wanted to circle back to the question of accuracy. I guess is really like that kind
Hmm.
of where I'm going to go with it is how important is it to you? And there's no right answer to this, so long as you're not like being entirely disrespectful to a culture that you shouldn't be. Uh, but like, how important is it to you in your writing that you quote get it right when it comes to the folklore or the mythology that you're using? And again, no right answer, because it could be that you're using it as inspiration and that you're playing with it. It could be that you're trying to be accurate because you're trying to honor the culture. It could be that you I don't know. I'm just making stuff up now. So I'm gonna start. Let's start where we ended. I'll start with Tal. How do you feel about this?
First thing I want to say is I love Return to Oz. Like I didn't get to say anything about the comment, and that is amazing.
Mm.
So accuracy is a little tough when it comes to folklore. These stories have been shaped and changed and molded by different people over the years. And I feel the same way about language when people get really obsessed with grammar being, which is funny because I have a master's in English, but when people get obsessed with grammar being a specific way, when I'm like, hey, guess what? Language is always changing, and that's how people understand things. So I do feel like it's important for folklore creatures to change with the times. And especially if you're an urban fantasy writer like Ben and I, yes, the creatures, if they were living in a city suddenly, would not be acting the same way as if they were living back in, a forest somewhere. So I do think that's important, but at the same time, you want the creature to be identifiable and you don't want to annoy anyone who really loves those creatures. And also being respectful to the cultures they're from. That's, when you sent me that article about the puckwudgies, like that was really great. I did talk about it a little bit earlier, but yeah, the puckwudgies, you don't want to be disrespectful to the Native American lore. And it's funny that they maybe were talking about white settlers when they were making these like ugly, mean creatures. So yeah, basically, I don't mind changing it, but you do want to be respectful, and you definitely don't want to get anyone upset about like if you're like, oh, fairies don't care about iron, and you're like, that's the one thing they do care about. It would annoy someone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if you wrote a book where werewolves were allergic to gold, and everyone's just like, why would you mess with the classics like that?
Yeah.
That's but that's real. It's like werewolves are fake, but like definitely them being allergic to silver is real. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Write a book where vampires, I don't know, like sparkle in sunlight or something. Everybody's going to be like, what are you doing?
yeah. I mean, to be fair though, like
Why
Italian
would you do
vampires couldn't possibly be allergic to garlic.
No, that's part of their eternal torment.
Oh, right. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, yeah. No
That's why it's a curse.
reflections and no garlic.
No reflections, no garlic. Oh my God, it would suck to be an Italian vampire.
All right. So
Um,
sorry that was great. Laurie, accuracy. How important is accuracy or faith to the folklore to you?
I pretty much got the same answer. I mean, I've got a lot of notes and I've written a lot of stuff for my specific take on the mythology about yes, they have a problem with iron, and here's why, and here's how scientifically it works, and here's what happens when a person has a child with Fae, and what happens to the iron in the blood, and down to the biochemical level, and the history of how the planets used to interact interdimensionally. But yeah, I'm still honoring yes, they have a problem with iron, but also, kind of taking it as some of these things are true from the mythology, but then from the fairy standpoint, they go, well, humans kind of got this part wrong, or humans, they understood this much, but then they were a little bit wrong about this, because some of it is the fairies telling the story from their own viewpoint. So I try as much as possible to honor the stories and be aware of what they are, but then also have my own take as a sort of like, well, here are the fairies now, and they are telling their side of things, or they're going to. So yeah, I definitely, lots of research has gone into it, and I don't want to step on people's toes, and I don't want to piss anybody off. And I'm really, really hoping as we get further into the story, if there are pagans out there who are super into Bridget and Morrigan, that they're not going to come for my head, because those two are going to be in the story a lot, and it's going to get weird. And it's a very nuanced version of those two characters that I don't want anybody to get mad at me for portraying them.
I'm excited to read that. I love the Morgan.
Okay. I hope you will not hate me.
I think you're going to be relatively safe. I think
It's good.
I
It's
think
going to be okay.
it really depends on what it is. But like just a quick couple things from the comments. Bree Van Bibber wrote about vampires and broke all the rules, but the vampires aren't on Earth, so rules may or
well,
may
that's
not
fine.
apply. But
Or
also,
even a sun? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I always worry about vampires in space though, because there's no shielding for the solar radiation, so they shouldn't be able to be out there. But
Yeah, but the whole
yeah,
reason that vampires have a problem with the sun is because it's God's wrath shining down on them. So it gets in the whole Christian mythology thing.
is that why?
That's why.
I thought it was because of lupus. Like people have lupus, like they have trouble with. Well, they're pale and they have trouble with like, and they have iron deficiencies
you
and
mean
trouble
that
with.
like the historical inspiration for vampirism was lupus?
Yeah, like people had the actual disease, and then like, they had trouble with sunlight, and then they had trouble with, all that kind of stuff, and then they were like, "That's a vampire."
The classical like old world definition for why vampires have a problem with the sun is because it's basically God's eye casting his judgment down upon the dirty sinners. And
like Sauron.
Yeah. And that's why they cannot stand the full force of his judgments burning down on their skin, and they can't stand crucifixes. And it's a whole thing. Yeah, it's a lot of Christian things that I know too much about.
Leave it
and also
to the Jews to not know that.
Yeah. I know. No, but I've read books where there's Jewish vampires and they can't handle like Star
Stars of
David's
David,
like.
you're kidding me. That's stupid.
Yeah. It is. It's really dumb.
Well, in Harry Dresden, he wards off a vampire with a pentacle
because
he has faith.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. It's faith. Yep.
Another comment from a good friend, Cara Blaine, in her Lux trilogy, which I think is Lux in Between is the first one, Cara. She included a notes section in her book where she explained both the folklore and the tweaks that she did to it. So I think that's a real cool idea.
That's great.
I consider doing that. I consider doing that in mine.
I mean, we do all the research anyway. Might as well put it in.
Yeah.
I
could do an annotated version of mine.
Yeah.
I could put out a version with notes.
I can answer my own question and then we can close out, I guess. So accuracy, I think again, it really depends on the book. And for the record, Laurie, no one's come for me yet for having a non-binary god in book 2 of The Devil You Know.
Oh my God, I love your Leslie.
Leslie, yes.
I love Leslie
also,
so much.
No one's come for me for naming God Leslie and making them non-binary. So,
they will. Just wait.
Yeah, I suppose it's possible.
You're just not popular enough yet.
I am not, in fact, popular enough. May I have that kind of problem, I guess.
Pitchforks are coming.
So I think accuracy is it can be important, and it depends on what your message is with the folklore. If it's used for inspiration and it informs a lot of what's going on, but you don't have there's no message as far as that you're building with the folklore itself, that it's backdrop and set dressing, you can often, I think, get away with a lot of things that are creative license. I think once, and this kind of dovetails into how I approached it for Sleeping Gods Lie, is that I had a message and it was tied to the folklore and the environmentalism and the anti-colonist, anti-colonial mindset. So I think it made more sense for me to take less creative license. You have to take some. We're authors. You have to. It still has to be an entertaining book. There's a magic system. I had to make some shit up, but it's grounded in practices and folklore that are real. And so for me, that one, it was important that it be accurate. But where I'm absolutely fucking with the Christian mythos when it comes to my first series, I've absolutely taken creative license. But I will say I take less creative license when I get outside of the Abrahamic religions, because the Abrahamic religions are big boys and they can take it. Like
Mhm.
it's not. And I'm sorry for
You're
anyone.
punching folklore up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's it's
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
it's it's about marginalization. is is the folklore or mythology or religion that you are trying to represent or take inspiration from? Oh god, I have to move the puzzle piece. Hold on. I apparently didn't move enough. um, if the stuff you're taking from is not marginalized, then it's not. And yeah, punch up. Do what you're gonna do. Take some creative liberties. They can take it. They've got enough money, followers, and fame to have that not be a problem. But
Yeah.
like in my third book, where I start introducing Hindu deities, I take less creative license. I actually contacted Hindu friends to make sure that I was addressing the Hindu deity
Hmm.
correctly. So it depends. Accuracy can be very important, but it can also go straight out the window when it's vampires in space. It really depends.
Person space.
So that's our show for tonight.
Yes.
We talked about mythology. We talked about very briefly about the horrific scam-ridden landscape that indie authors face.
I'm sad I missed that.
Yeah, we can do a whole show about it. I think we should. But thank you all for joining us for as long as you did, and all the
Yep.
comments. Having a very lively comment section has been fantastic. So before we sign off, Lori, tell people where they can find you and about your books.
You can find me on Amazon under my name, and I have a book called Down the Rabbit Hole. That's the first of the Liminal Spaces series, and you can find our anthology with all three of us and also David Nemitz called A Season for Stories, and it looks like this. And I tried
Yay.
searching for it on Amazon earlier, and it was really hard to find. So I don't
Oh
know how
no.
easy it is to find, but you can probably
Whoop,
search
whoop.
under our names and find it on Amazon. Also, it is on, oh, that turned me yellow. It is on Kindle, and the book version is like $1. I don't know. It's really cheap. The printed version is, I don't know. It's really cheap, but it's wonderful, wonderful stories. And mine is a gay love story with Isaac Newton, and there's science in it, and it's sad because it's a winter story. It's really sad, and if you don't cry, you're a robot.
I like how happy you are. It's like, and it's sad.
So
It's so
sad.
sad. You'll cry.
All right.
Read it and cry.
Tell folks where they can find you and your books.
I'm on Amazon. I'm on the Caffeinated Terrier Press website. The Secret Wing series, it's good for kids and adults. It's a fun read. There's 4 books, and then I have a young adult, Fairy Blood, Song of the Lark, also up there. And I have some comics if anyone's interested in those things.
Fantastic. And as always, I am Ben Schenkman, and you can find my The Devil You Know series, which is 3 books, soon-ish to be 4, on Amazon, Kindle Unlimited, ebook, paperback, hardcover, and the first 2 books in audio. I'm recording the third now. Let Sleeping Gods Lie, The Chronicles of Corbin Pierce, first book out, and Underleveled, The Legend of Rolf, a progression fantasy romp, soon to be available in audiobook as well. And find me at benshankman.com and caffeinatedterrierpress.com. That's it, folks. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, and we all hope that you have a great holiday if we don't talk to you before then. Good night, everybody.
Yep.
Good
Bye.
night.
Good night.